Alcance o carro 31. Se prepara, vai largar. Alcance o carro 31. Ok, o pace car entrou. Valendo, valendo, valendo. Tem carro na sua esquerda, mantenha a direita, limpo. Tem um carro lento na direita. Vai pela esquerda. Na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Ainda aí, mantenha a tua linha, limpo. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Liberou na esquerda, na direita. Liberado na direita. Vai pela esquerda. Tem um carro lento na direita. Vai pela esquerda. 1 minuto 19.931. Minuto 11.145. Minuto 10.71. esquerda. Beleza, limpo na esquerda. Carro parado na esquerda. Minuto 11.043. Na esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Minuto 11.297. Minuto 11.087. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Na esquerda, minuto 11.751. Liberou na esquerda. Tem carro na direita. Liberado na direita. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Mantenha a direita. Limpo. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Beleza, limpo na esquerda. minuto 11.503. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Na esquerda. Limpo. À direita. Limpo. Minuto 12.637. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Minuto 12.041. Minuto 11.688. Minuto 11.795. Na esquerda. Fica na direita. Limpo. Tem carro na sua esquerda, limpo. Minuto 11.855. Tem carro na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. Na esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Minuto 12.551. Minuto 11.408. Na direita. Limpo. Minuto 11.47. Na direita. Limpo. sua esquerda. Beleza, limpo na esquerda. Tem carro na direita. Limpo. Minuto 11.555. Minuto 11.445. Na esquerda. Ainda aí. Liberou na esquerda. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Limpo. Tem carro na direita. Liberado na direita. Na direita. Limpo. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Beleza, limpo na esquerda. Minuto 13.563. Minuto 11.451. Na esquerda, beleza, limpo na esquerda. minuto 11.457. Na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. Tem carro na direita. Limpo. Minuto 11.44. Tem no máximo mais 5 voltas de combustível, ok? Minuto 11.068. Beleza, limpo na esquerda. Na esquerda. Limpo. Na esquerda. Limpo. Minuto 12.134. esquerda. Tem só mais 2 voltas de combustível. Prepara para entrar em breve. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Minuto 12.964. Tem carro na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. Atenção, hein? Você só tem mais 1 volta de combustível. Ó, não esquece de vir pro pit nessa volta, tá mais combustível. Box em 10. 5, 3, 2, 1. Vem aqui. O líder tá entrando no box agora. Tudo limpo? Acelera, ó, mas cuidado com o limite de velocidade no pit. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Minuto 44.424. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Limpo. Tem carro na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. 11.742. Carro parado na direita. Vai pela esquerda. Minuto 11.2. Minuto 11.678. Tem carro na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. Minuto 11.673. Minuto 11.279. Na esquerda, limpo. 5 voltas de combustível ainda. Minuto 11.123. Na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. Carro na sua esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Minuto 12.341. Tira o pé para devolver o tempo que ganhou, né? Tem carro na direita. Ainda aí, mantenha a tua linha. Liberado na direita. Bandeira branca, só mais uma pro final. 1 minuto 12.488. Deve ter mais ou menos 2 voltas de combustível. Atenção aí. Na esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Você mereceu a vitória, muito bom.
vez.
Vai pra mim, tá? Vai pra mim. Aí não tem para disso não.
Brasil é fácil, rápido e sem burocracia. Você estuda o que quiser e onde quiser, com parcelas que cabem no bolso e podem ser... Quer estudar pagando menos por mês? Então você precisa conhecer o Pra Valer, o maior financiamento estudantil privado do Brasil. É fácil, rápido e sem burocracia. Você estuda o que quiser e onde quiser, com parcelas que cabem no bolso e podem ser sem juros. São mais de 500 universidades parceiras em todo o país. Ah, e tudo isso com clube de benefícios e aprovação em até 24 horas. Saiba mais em pravaler.com.br.
We're not seeing the LMDH we're not seeing that train. We are seeing BS competition pulling away from SSC Movana Corsa, pulling away from the Apex Racing Team. We are seeing separation. Speaking of Apex Racing Team, it could be one position back as Team Redline are trying to fend them off. I say one position back. It's actually trying to hang on, really.
That's Leandro Andarutti in the BMW Team Fondue car, who's going to look to the outside. You don't really want to be hung out to dry there, and cutting back in the wisest thing to do. Now, I'm going to point out the elephant in the room here. Is this BMW Team Fondue livery somewhat of a shot towards some other asymmetric liveries that may or may not be leading in GTP?
No, I mean, there are a few things that might lean towards it. Potentially the line straight over the middle, and then the fact that it's different on either side, and the team name, potentially.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, I've always kind of said this, and to be fair, this is one thing that I do love about Florian, of course, team principal and team manager of BS competition. Always up for a little bit of banter.
Oh,
and
yes.
I kind of like that. I like the fact that, so, you know, for sometimes, some events, some teams might just be like, look, okay, yeah, we're not representing a major team here. Let's just fire some shots and have some fun.
So this is what happened to the Outlaws car. Oh, it all just checks up in front of them, and they take avoiding and not insignificant hit into the wall.
Was it the other Outlaws car that was the one that was going sideways ahead?
Maybe.
Because they don't have a livery on, so they're just running the standard BMW livery. So I was kind of wondering if it was them.
That might also have been MSI. I'm not 100% sure.
MSI, I think MSI is dark though. MSI is black rather than the running.
Yeah, they've
the
all done a
BMW
terrible
livery.
job of submitting liveries.
Oh,
to
I
be
know.
clear.
Yeah. The only thing that they've done a worse job at is sending us T-shirts.
Oh yes.
So, you know,
yeah.
Get to it, teams, please. I would take a BMW Team Fondue.
I would take a cheese T-shirt. I mean,
yeah, T-right.
I'm just trying to make sure my wardrobe is filled. I got a care package from another German manufacturer that I did a broadcast for yesterday.
No, you can't say that.
No, I can't say that. As well as from iRacing. And the best part is, it's like, great, I've got 3 new T-shirts, and then I put them in the wash for the very first time, and you know, you get those Tide Pod thingies that you put in the washer. Yeah, one of them got stuck to one of my iRacing shirts. I didn't even get to wear it. It's already destroyed.
Oh, no. My goodness.
I know. There are a couple of cars cutting their way through traffic, by the way. Rick Young started in pit lane, but not sure exactly what happened here.
Oh, hot damn.
And what's that you say, Lewis? Sia?
That is a Sia right there. Oh, let's have a look. Okay, so I don't know if he was trying to shift down and it was not having any of it, because it did go into 4th just as he hit the wall, or if that might have been an RQ. It seemed a little bit odd for an RQ. I mean, let's be honest, if you're going to rage quit, you might as well just keep
Oh,
down.
that's what RQ stands for. I was sitting here going, like, what do the young kids say now?
RQ, mate. Rage quit.
Yeah, okay, well.
Oh, also, look at this coming through. I wanted to see this. It's the playseat car.
I know. Well, I was just about to say, let's get our first look at the playseat car.
We can't see it.
Except the problem is, it's being involved in an incident. Mike Partington with a 360, but it ends with the left rear in the wall hard, and that's why he had to come down to pit lane for significant repairs, as we see Arnage going around as well.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of drama going through there. We'll see it once again. I don't know whether it was just like the slight...
There's contact, but there may be some net code.
I think so. I think there might have been a little bit, but I mean, hanging around the outside, it is also very slippery out there, like insanely slippery.
It's not a smart idea. I mean, outside on either side, outside into this corner or outside out of this corner.
Yeah, I mean, oh, 3 wide as well ahead. Look at all that ahead. What is going on there? I mean, 3 wide. We're talking about 2 wide's not a good
Wow.
idea. They're like, nah, watch this.
So that would have been the Outlaws Racing Club, the 30, and then Williams Esports Chill Blast. So it explains why Carl Janssen is now trucking his way down on pit lane with not some insignificant damage. Poor Carlos Diguez as well. Not sure what more he could have really done.
No, like I say, I mean, it's kind of one of those ones that you can look at from various angles and get different opinions of, and we like doing that every now and then because it's just a bit of fun, isn't it? But also, not for them, but also,
not for them,
you know,
no.
Race control and stuff. They'll, you know, it's their
Good
job
point.
So,
There is live race control that will take a look at anything inside of the top 10 for points. Mag Performance Sim Racing.
Nah.
Well, don't think that was in the top 10, but race control definitely would have taken a look at that one.
Yeah, I mean, that was, let's just go with that wasn't on. I mean, you're not, because you've got to be really close to send one down the inside here. I think it was slightly more defensive towards the BS Turner car behind. Dur was also a little bit early on the brakes, as you would you should expect them to be. That doesn't mean that it's time to go down the inside. So it was just a misjudgment. It's clearly, you know, there's no malice in there. It wasn't intentional, but it's just clumsy and pretty silly. This early in the race. Again, you've said it, but you said it earlier on. Survive this point in the race. Survive it.
I get the feeling as though Wave Italy may have been involved in contact with someone else, as there's a bit of live drama going on. Yeah, bit of a shove from the Team PGZ car on the replay. Almost 3 wide at the line as Luke McEwen does indeed get past Tom Burns in the third of the red line machines, but now a 1.5 second margin up to Gianni Vecchio in 4th position. It's going to be what Luke McEwen has to focus his attention on. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Lewis, as Leandro Andarucci also gets past Tom Burns. Tom Burns, formerly Team Fordzilla driver, right?
I'm 41.5% sure.
Okay.
That's about as high as we're going to go on this. Certainly is new to the red line camp anyway. I'm pretty sure it's it was Fordzilla. The thing is, just to clarify...
Oh! Red line! Straight for Gianni Vecchio, who has been experiencing technical issues in the build-up to the week. He was scared about it before yesterday's World Championship race, and it struck and almost took out Chris Lullum. How did they all survive?
That is unreal. Like you say, I did see his posts about technical, but he didn't take part yesterday, did he?
No, he did. He built 4 computers over the course of the week, and then went back to the original computer because they all had issues. Unfortunately, seems like the original car at PC has had issues, as we got a car off the road down at Cunningham. It's starting to kick off with traffic playing its part.
Yeah, a lot of smoke being kicked off. Urano's off on the left-hand side as well. Sorry.
I know.
Fix your liveries, man. As soon as I saw them on row 3, I was like, oh, no.
Yep.
God damn. Thank you. Let's take a look at this. I mean, I'm not sure what's happened there as to whether it is a PC problem or whether it could be pedals. It does seem as though it's kind of one of those ones where it's like you've got no brake pedal. Now, the thing is, I don't want to speak on behalf of him. I don't know what the setup's like or whatever. Is there any braking going on in there other than engine braking? Oh, never mind.
3 wide around some traffic. They decide to go Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen on a few of these guys. We've got cars peeling off into the pit lane. My goodness, cars being squeezed off into the wall.
Oh, this is a recipe for disaster. I'm wincing looking at this. Oh my goodness me. Wow, that was Urano straight to the inside.
Oh, and
out wide goes Race Clutch.
And off and into the grass, holding onto it with great car control, it must be said. But this first pass through traffic is always the most chaotic. And Lewis, I tell you what, I am struggling not to laugh at some of this.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's not the most patient and wisest driving as to what we've seen.
Oh, we've got more drama. Dylan Burse has gone off. Nicholas Rubelar's been off as well. I mean, it's like they watched the end of yesterday's 12-hour race and are like, you know what, we can replicate that in the sim.
I did say on the formation app, I was like, if you found last night entertaining, I'm not sure too many people did, but if you did find it entertaining, it's probably what we're going to see today, and it is exactly what we're seeing today, is straight down the inside of the race leading in GT3. I'm not sure which one that was. That was a bit of a I was going to say it was maybe a little bit of a turning from hard mode, but we'll leave it. Let's be honest, it's not the worst bit of driving that we've seen in the last 14 minutes. Goodness me.
Let's be honest, we did see a couple of questionable things last year. I know Barber in particular was one that a lot of the teams and the drivers maybe were not the most happy about, but this is a very different situation because this has been all under the driver's control. Let's try and filter our way through some of what race control is going to have to dice their way through. I don't even know how you get on the outside of that corner there, but they did.
I need to see that from so many angles. You have no idea. Like, that is what is going on here. So obviously you've got a massive cluster in here. You've got Williams just get driven into. Williams absolutely get cleaned out there.
And then look at Obsidian. I'm sorry, we're playing pinball here.
It's poor. It is poor. I mean, this is why I've said before, when it comes to multi-class racing, bang, bang, yeah, and then, like, say, Obsidian's just sort of like gone, yeah, cool, I'm just going to fire it in here. Bash, there's another one gone, see ya, son. I mean, these LMDHs, they're pretty big, but they ain't tanks. But they are being driven like them at the moment. Just wild.
And so what happens to Peter Zuber here? There's so much going on, I can't even tell what's... We're going to need to look from up above.
Good God. I am so glad I'm not a part of race control. Madness.
Yeah, well, the good thing is they're all taking each other out, so there's not much going... Oh, so he does get squeezed slightly, but to be fair, that's more just racing.
In that scenario, you've got nearly 15 cars in what really should be 2 or 3, right?
Oh, no.
Is it more? Is it red line?
That's Tom Burns, who's now parked in and taken a trip back to pit lane. So from
Just
3,
clarify, not the commentator's curse.
Not the commentator's curse. They've gone from 3 inside of the top 5 to 1 inside of the top 3.
Yeah, no, I know, I can feel it. I know he's working today, so it's fine. But I could feel a message coming from Dame Bird right there.
Oh,
being like,
yes.
The commentator's curse does exist. Did you see the tweet? Yeah, no, you must have, because I sent it to you.
Yeah, I may or may not have wondered who did we give control of RaceSpot social media to when I saw the tweet initially.
Dame.
And then I realised it was Dame Baird.
Dame Baird, yeah, no, he's working today, so we can't hear it, it's fine.
If you are wondering what we're talking about, head over to twitter.com/RaceSpotTV, where we had a poll as to whether the commentator's curse is real.
It isn't.
The people have spoken, Lewis. It is real.
I don't know. I replied with my 2 Simi awards to say I don't care.
That was hilarious, especially the placement of a certain finger as well.
Oh, don't go into that was actually accidental. But
was it?
It was accidental. That like elevator move was pretty mad from Mirano there.
Dylan Shriven's there. Questionable thinking.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's fine.
It's the jink to make it 3 wide and to be that tight to the inside. It was never going to go well. Then what happens to Nicholas Rubelar and Dylan Burst, because they have their own little smorgasbord of fun as they have one of the yellow GTPs down the inside. Burst goes for it.
Nah.
And yeah.
That was poor. No, I will say with this, that's also poor. Scrivens. I actually don't have a problem with that. With having, because the thing was is that he looked aggressively down the inside of the first corner, but kind of left himself enough room to kind of back out of it, right? Rather than just full on sending it. And the thing was, the crash that then happened, although the squeezing off that then happened, was kind of nothing to do. Like, he wasn't a part of that incident. Yeah. I mean, I will say, when you're on the grass, you've got no control. But damn.
Yeah, if you're Bruno Spengler, I don't think you're too thrilled with that one. Hopefully now we can calm down enough that we don't have to go and cycle through a million more replays. But knowing that, I'm sure the drivers are going to do things just to spite me at this point, because sometimes it does feel like that. Pedro Sanchez Albert through the traffic has built up a 2.5 second advantage over the SRC Movano car. Owen Carl still running third in the Apex Racing Academy car, with Vlad Kimichev now right on his tail and trying to get his way on past. GT3, Matti Siepelen now leads from Florian Lebigra, which I think is what RAG would want, Lewis, because we saw how much tyres and fuel came into play 12 months ago. I have no doubt it will be a similar kind of situation here today.
Yeah, I mean, with multi-class stuff, it is kind of a bit easier to save fuel, if that kind of makes sense, because like whilst everyone's darting around you, you can kind of like use that time to be like, right, I'm going to back out of this. You can use that to save fuel as well. Yeah, so it's not just about being in the train. The bit that makes it harder is the fact of counter to last year, where at this point in the race we're talking about a big, 15, 20 car train, right? We wouldn't have had this much drama last year when it was just a single class. And so when you have that big train, it's great for fuel saving for those towards that. The problem that really arises, though, in this style of racing is that train it exists for about 10 minutes. And then the GTPs come through, those big old hybrids just fire their way through, and bang, the train no longer exists. And that's what we have at the moment. No surprise to anyone, but we don't have that train, which means that there's only 3 cars that are able to, or 2 cars here, that are able to properly save that fuel. Everyone else behind has to burn more fuel to catch up, so then they can save fuel. And if they start saving fuel now, well, they're not going to be in the fight for the race win. So it's like being in the position of Anzaruti and Luke McEwen, they are not in a good spot right now. It's not awful, but it's not good.
Absolutely. I think as well, it's always interesting to hear complaints from drivers saying that, oh no, can you turn back my draft up, please? I'm going to throw Sadakist under the bus.
Yes,
I don't know if he's watching, but he's been particularly vocal on social media. Sorry, Matt, but I am going to throw you under the bus. If it's more realistic, why are we asking for more draft, please?
Yeah, I mean, again, I've actually had many a conversation about this with various people, and again, it's the whole thing of like time and place for everything in sim racing. Now, I have no problem with something which drives a bit more like a sim that has more slipstream if it's more of like an esports style thing, right? We've seen this with the ESLR1 and various things that happen over on other simulators and stuff where they can. You have artificially, you have more slipstream, whatever, and the idea is that you would encourage more racing from those because it matches with the format, right? But it still drives like a sim, and I am okay with that because it's entertaining, but it's still proper racing, right, to a degree. Whereas when you've got something which is trying to be more of a sim, more of a real world replica, yeah. Well, guess what? in real life, there's not actually that much slipstream. You don't just get behind someone and instantly you're ahead of them. That's what DRS is for.
Play seat car sends something through. Yeah, and this is the thing, we're talking with some of the real-world drivers about different cars. It's always interesting, right? Like, when I got the chance to talk about a certain other German manufacturer spec car that they have that may have raced yesterday here on iRacing, they were describing to me at Indianapolis, a road course where you may not think downforce or anything is that important, how much dirty air they feel and how hard it was to follow. And so all of these little things are not insignificant, and so I always find it interesting to try and correlate what we see and feel, on TV versus what we feel in the sim and what the drivers in reality are feeling. Don't forget, you can use the hashtag BMWSim to stay up to date and in contact with us here today on the broadcast. We will try and get to as many of your tweets as possible as Pedro Sanchez Albert actually loses a bit of time working his way through traffic. Eduardo Leo try and take advantage. Let's see if we can pick up a couple of things on social media. Hello to @BMW Motorsports, different classes, same style. I hope that's not referring to what they saw at the end of last night.
Probably is a little bit. I mean, it's more. I think it's just leaning towards the chaos that has been seen over the opening portion of the race. I mean, it was expected when you've got a 52 car field. It's always going to go a bit dramatic, and yeah, it is what it is.
BMW Motorsport also giving the Zebras some love with their first pole position of the campaign, because Pedro Sanchez Albert technically was Obsidian Racing when he did it over at Daytona. As always, the BS competition poster machine has showed up. Danny Elgube doing his magic once again.
Yeah, love that poster. I will say this is something for all teams in sim racing. Maybe this is pushed by some of the stuff that BS competition have been very, very good with over the last couple of years. But a lot of teams, a lot of their social posts these days, really, really solid. Like, really, really good. Loving what I've been seeing from, Redline and Urano and all that. I think they look great. Including some of the memes, let's not forget. Oh, yeah. Yes. Maybe the memes are the best part. Gotta have some fun. I mean, beautiful sunshine as well at Sebring. You can see there. See Phil Denez there on the left-hand side. He's a good lad. Do you remember last year, WEC? Was it the orange sunset that we had? Do you not? Oh, it was glorious at Sebring. Oh, it was so. I mean, to be fair, it was pretty glorious in qualifying. It was for WEC on that was Thursday, wasn't it? Thursday,
No,
yeah,
WEC was Friday, wasn't it?
Yeah, the race was, but the qualifying.
Qualifying Thursday.
Again, it was in that side. It looked phenomenal.
It did look phenomenal. In terms of a couple of checkups there, I saw BS Turner and the Apex Racing team swapping around there because Maxime Briant got a bit of a shove. Nicholas Rubelar also sliding on through, as now the Apex Racing Academy LMDH will spool up the hybrid and go down the inside. It is interesting, let's be completely fair here, to see the rock and rolling grooving Frenchman Maxime Briant in a GT3 car and not in a prototype.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, let's be honest, the LMP2 does drive slightly differently than the LMDH, and maybe that's kind of, you know, he doesn't want to remove his power and prowess in. Well, yeah, fair enough. There's maybe a bit of that. I don't know. It is a bit odd. If you would have suggested, you know, he would go take part, and it's not as if they're the Apex Racing team are a team that is only taking part in one category, like Redline, for example. They are taking part in both, so I would have assumed Briant would have been on more of the other side. I would have almost bet my house on it, but alas, he's going in the GT3. He's not inside the top 10 yet, but there is potential. And whilst I've been waffling, Urano and, speaking of Apex Racing, their Academy car in LMDH have been switching just a touch for third.
Yep. Kimichev in front, and now Owen Carl, who's lost about 3 seconds up to Eduardo Leo, will try and stay tough and hold with Kimichev. Ben Fuller, to be fair, is only another 3 seconds down the road, so technically it's the Apex Racing Academy car that's schooling the Apex Racing team right now, but we'll see how long that lasts. Let's not forget that the LMDHs have a probably 40-minute fuel window or so, and so 25 minutes or so into the race, we're only probably 7, 8, 9 laps away from getting these cars down onto pit lane. One other thing to think about relative to last year, Lewis, is with the split with LMDH and GT3. Now the GT3s aren't as guaranteed as to how much fuel they're going to need to get to the end, because really the LMDHs control how many laps we'll end up doing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of it's a bit more of a complicated calculation if you are going to run it down to the wire, and it's kind of at that point where, you know, as we were discussing at Daytona, you don't really want to run it down to the wire as close as you would have done last year, where it would have been almost a guarantee. You would have known how many laps there was going to be, and you could have worked that out very quickly, very easily. Now you can work out how many laps the race is going to be, but it's harder to work out how many of those laps you're going to do, because it's dependent on so many different factors that it's almost not worth calculating. You're better off putting into your strategy to have that extra lap of fuel, where everyone would be sat there being like, oh yeah, but the extra weight in the car, it's just, it's better to be safe than sorry, because you could end up coming back into pit lane, or worst off, running out of fuel. Trust me, I know how running out of fuel feels at Sebring, and it's not fun. Not fun at all.
I am actually now very curious. I would love to talk to someone like a George Simmons and Mark Tranter at the Apex Racing team and ask how would they plan for something like that, because they've got cars in both LMDH and GT3, right? So they
asked me a couple of weeks ago, mate.
I should have. I know. You got to go. Just digging it in, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Great facility. Great place.
And you got to put track maps up behind Jamie Fluke.
I know. Really, really happy with it.
But you know the only problem with that?
I did leave a few guys.
I know, but you didn't put that many tracks up behind him.
No, because I left plenty for you to put.
Well, no, the main problem is you put them all so close together that depending on how big his webcam is, it can be quite difficult to pick out what's actually on screen.
No. I realised that because, again, when I was looking, because obviously he pulled up his webcam on to making sure we were lined up properly. But then it did go in my mind. I was like, I'm putting these quite close together. Looks great in a photograph, though. So
it does.
Yeah, it's fine.
You know what also looked great on the photograph? Gordy Much's face on the back of his sim rig during the iRacing Daytona 24. That was hilarious. Battle for 10th in the GT3. This is, of course, a train that has kind of broken up to the leader. There's pockets that have opened up as a result of the traffic. This really is 8th on back that has formed on up. Maxime Briant has put himself back in front of Nicholas Rubelar, and he's got Maxence Godino with now Daniel Pastor behind. It is good to have the full complement of the Williams Esports cars. We actually get to see the play seat car. It's not fictional.
Almost the full complement.
What are we missing?
Well, I mean, they've got a few sponsors now, haven't they? And they've picked up one certain one. I will say, in eNASCAR, they do look very good, but the Duracell cars.
It needs more battery, though.
To be fair, the placing one almost. So if you kind of if you took it right, and
I see what you mean.
If you removed the blue, right, and it had the blue on the back as black, boom, battery.
Yeah. As you were saying it,
Boom.
I was seeing it visually. Yeah. I will say, I like a good other color. You've seen the Artifact Racing livery. I mean, there's pink, neon yellow. We've got all sorts of wacky colors on it. Orange is nice. What else do Williams have out on there? Fanatec.
The black.
Matte black, because of course they've got spec maps.
Yeah, looks good. Obviously the standard.
Chili Blast.
Chili Blast.
I know, John Heindorf.
Have you noticed the batteries on the top?
Are there batteries on the top?
Look at the roof scoop as it comes round.
Oh wow! One at iLivery's continuing to work his magic.
Boom. There it is.
You can actually see the
batteries.
Duracell.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
We don't have a camera that I think is going to be able to show us it even closer, but yeah, that is a top tier effort.
I mean, obviously it's not 100% just there because it is on the Williams F1 car. If you look at the
oh, is it?
F1, yep, there's a battery there. Again, if you're going to have branding like that, use it well. And it's kind of one of those things. It's such an iconic, just the black and then that sort of like bronze. It's just boom. You know, even without the logo, you know what it is.
Well, the best part is it's more effective a branding tool than the screens that McLaren have been trying to trial. Let's be honest. I mean, once you see that, you're never unseeing it. So I love it.
Yeah.
Speaking of liveries, as that Williams eSports car carves its way past the GT3 leaders, Matti Sipilä, Florian Lebigra, now only 1 second away from Chris Lullen, who's brought himself back into contention. It is good to see the what formerly I guess we would call the Team 707 livery, now changing the name up to hard mode. Matti Sipilä, I think, still with Antiohola after Kova disbanded at the end of 2022. We get some classic Finnish livery on the side of their car.
Yeah, see, part of me when I opened up the 7 for the first time and I saw it, and I was like, oh, hard mode. Oh, have they signed for it? No, it's just. No. They've not. Have they still not signed for a team yet? Is that correct?
I thought Antiohola did Daytona for like Door Esports or someone.
Yeah, but this is like, was that?
That's
in
the
same
problem.
Vein?
No,
is
I
that
know.
the same vein as like when Moritz Lerner left Williams and then did like the Bathurst 12 hour for
with
Coanda?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Is it in that same kind of vein? Obviously, he did. Who did he do Daytona with? I can't remember.
Moritz with Team RSO.
RSO, of course.
See, this is the thing. My memory for some of these most random things is great. I can remember that Moritz did a Daytona 24 with Team RSO. If you ask me, who finished 5th in the first round of the series, I'd have to go and look at the record book.
No idea. I think. I kind of want to say it was Williams, but I don't really want to say
Was it Williams?
Don't remember.
You can't talk about Williams at Daytona.
It was. It was. I mean, it was more than a month ago. Let's be honest.
It was.
And we've done a lot of races. So, yeah, it's fine.
I know. Something's hiding behind your green screen because you've been so busy.
Yeah, it's true. It is still up.
Speaking of it, I guess we could talk about it very quickly. ESL R1, BMW BS competition. Well, to give it the full and proper title, BMW M Team BS Plus competition.
Yep.
Great name to say as they come across the line and grab a victory.
Oh.
But Niels Naujoks, I mean, the Silver Fox, turning it on in qualifying, grabbing his way up to the finals in ESL R1, and was it second behind Luke Bennett?
Almost won. Luke Bennett, though, was just a force to be reckoned with on that day. But, you know, like I say, the BMW is pretty good on that round, but it is great to see someone like Niels Naujoks still just having it. And as much as it's probably not stuck fully yet, I am absolutely going to keep calling him the Silver Fox. Got to. Poor guy.
I don't feel like there's a better nickname for him right now. That's half the problem. Yeah,
exactly. So, you know, BMW and Team BS competition. If you've got a couple of ideas of other nicknames for Niels Naujoks, anyone in the chat, you got ideas and nicknames for any driver, as long as they're PG within reason and we can actually see them on broadcast, go for it. Fill your boots.
So a lot of people know I'm a big mixed martial arts fan. The best nicknames are never ones that fighters give themselves.
That's true.
Never the best nickname. You know the best nickname is Bobby Knuckles for Robert Whittaker. And you know why it's so good? Just because it fits him so well. But also because he hates it. He actually does not like it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Jamie Fluke doesn't like being called the nicest man in sim racing, so...
to be fair, Jamie Fluke's tried to disprove that theory with some of the recent races that he's...
Yeah, I have noticed. I'm like, oh, is that a move? Oh, that's a bit aggressive, isn't it? Oh, the nicest man in sim racing, ... No, I mean...
He did kind of turf Max Bedecker yesterday.
I saw, coming down into at the end of the straight.
No,
End of the straight?
Turn 11 at Coda, yeah. Was it turn 11?
Oh, I don't remember.
Coda turn numbers are so... They have so many corners that it's just like, okay, which is what? Because, again, you never know if they've numbered the corners correctly. Yeah,
but that's why this track, as much as the corners aren't numbered correctly, it's great.
They've got names.
They've got names, exactly. You know, you're coming down into Le Mans corner, onto the Ullman Straight, down towards Sunset, through turn 1, and then turn 2, really? Turn 2? Really?
Turn 2 is the kink into turn 3, isn't it?
Exactly. It's not a corner. America, please.
You can't say America, please, because then I have to point the Red Bull ring to you. And there's plenty in Europe as well, let's be honest. Zolder?
Is Zolder quite bad? I don't really
Zolder's questionable, if I remember correctly.
But let's be honest, at least turn 2 at the Red Bull ring, you could almost see it. Turn 2, that's turn 1.
Turn 2 at the Red Bull ring is turn 2 in a motorbike. We're clear on that.
This is turn 2.
This is turn 3 now. Yes.
That was turn 2. And you're like, excuse me?
4, 5.
And it's like, right. Okay,
and then I think technically the hairpin is 8. No, technically the hairpin's 7.
It has to be 7.
Yes.
This is Big Bend, great corner name, down towards the hairpin, right? And that's fine. But then the hairpin, it's 6, or sorry, 7. And then it's 8 and 9.
This is 8, then you got 9, and then is it 10 as well?
But you don't, yeah, exactly. Now, but you just call it Fangio and just be done with it, right? And it's great. You just chuck a name onto it, because a name is just for a complex.
Yes, but then you go to Spa, and then every corner has like 3 different names.
Yeah, but that's why you just need to, again, for future reference, we're just going to make our own track maps.
No, for future reference, we are the arbiters of truth.
Absolutely.
We're
the ones you're listening to.
That's true.
Which works until you commentate with someone not inside our little group, our little clique, and then it's a nightmare.
Until you work with someone you don't have actual great chemistry with, and then it's a lot more difficult.
I do that all the time.
I know. I mean, we're doing it right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're doing it all the time. Front of the field, down to 1.6. Pedro Sanchez-Albert's really lost out this most recent cycle through traffic. Eduardo Leo benefiting slightly, and into Sunset Bend will dispatch of all bar BS competition. And he'll do that on the entry through the right-hander. Traffic gives and the traffic takes. And this is one of those tracks in particular that, for example, out of turn 2 into 3, 4, and 5, if you get checked up behind someone, there isn't much that you can realistically do unless you decide you're Felipe Albuquerque and Matthew Jaminet and you just want to cause all sorts of chaos.
I was going to say, just make it 3 wide and cause a humongous crash just for the lols.
Just for the lols.
No, I will say, when it comes to laps being set, as we can see, a couple coming down to pit lane. This is about a little early, but it is around that kind of time we expect them to come in. So Urano's in. For the GT3s, though, we're not expecting them to come in for a while. But I will say, Florian Lebiga's just set the fastest lap of the race, closing down on the race leader in the GT3 category. And they've also both pulled out nearly about a second and a half, nearly 2 seconds over Chris Lullen. We'll keep our eyes, obviously, on LMDH, Pedro Sanchez-Albert, hanging on to that race lead, but you're absolutely right. I'm not sure if this is poor traffic management, or just the rough luck of it and such, or if it is just the fact that SOC Milano Corsa car is flying at the moment.
I think a bit of both. I mean, it could also just be set up. Let's not forget that you can take tires and do fuel at the same time, and Dominic Kaufmann has taken over from that in that number 90 machine, so already seeing the driver changes working their way through. Would be curious if we'll see 2 driver changes, or if it's going to be just the 1 driver change, whether it's at the first time of asking or the second time of asking, another 40 minutes from now. Pedro Sanchez Albert, now the gap down to 1 second. He goes to the outside, means he's going to stay out for another lap. And Eduardo Leo's going to continue to put the pressure. Gap now under 7/10 of a second. It had held at 2:03 seconds for the entirety of the first 40 minutes. Albert feels the heat.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you start feeling that heat, you start making some aggressive moves. That was absolutely fine going through the first corner. It just kind of looks a little bit terrifying. Let's go with that. Let's use the word that it is, terrifying. Getting past our GT3 leader, you can look backwards, and this battle is absolutely on. Now on board with Ben Fuller, who's closed in, no longer being schooled. I think is the right way of putting it.
As still being schooled.
Well, I mean, he's caught up quite a large gap as Ben Fuller and Owen Carroll over the last couple of laps. I think tyres might be at play for this one.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. What are the track conditions that we're kind of looking at? Haven't really mentioned it. Don't forget RaceSpot, timing71.org. I've been told racespot.wtf/BMW does not work, so timing71.org to follow the timing. Also shows you these weather conditions, 44 degrees Celsius. Pretty warm and toasty. Obsidian Racing continuing to make it toasty out on track by squeezing that Apex Racing GT3 car.
I remember a few years ago, but by a few years ago, it's probably close to 5, when a certain different German manufacturer released a mid-engined V10 car onto the platform, and first round of it was at Sebring. And I remember the track temperature being, I think it was like 55 degrees at various points. Actually quite good fun to drive. Very, very slippery.
Toasty track.
Yeah, that was a toasty track. 44 is pretty hot, but it's not obscene, so it should be okay. Pedro Sanchez Albert, we'll look at that in the background though, into the pit lane, Eduardo Leo into the pit lane. So this is where it's going to be very interesting. Does the SSE Bavana Corsa car, is Eduardo Leo, for one, going to stay in the car? Right, that's one interesting question straight off.
Oh no, Obsidian Racing into sunset, and I think maybe involving with the Outlaws 969 as well, who take a tow back to pit lane. Sorry to cut you off, Lewis.
No,
but Obsidian Racing, who have been so feisty today, maybe getting too punchy.
Feisty's the right word. Let's go with that. Feisty is absolutely the right word. So a few cars, like I say, into pit lane. Are these going for the undercut? Is, changing tyres? Are you going to be enough fast now to actually potentially get an undercut? That's what I'm kind of curious. And this will be the big telling factor as to whether the tyres are really going off. Looks technical then.
Yeah. And out of nowhere as well, to be fair.
Yeah, this is odd. It's just kind of like I say, it's at the end of the straight, so I'm baffled.
It's like his monitors go black because you can see that he's taken his hands off the wheel because it's the force feedback's doing that feedback loop where it just bounces back and forth. That's what happens to Jesse Tekela. Now, did that involve the other one of the Outlaws machines, or was this mixed up with someone else? Is this pit exit merge woes?
Oh no.
Who is that?
Oh no. Still nearly made the apex as well. That was going to be an 8 out of 10. Like at least nearly clipped it.
I have no idea who that other car was.
I don't know if I'm perfectly honest. You're the broadcaster, actually. Come on, get with it.
I know.
I'm trying to work out what's happened with some of these these penalties and incidents and stuff, because I do have a little bit of a list, but I'm not sure.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, we
That's
do.
news to me.
It's all right. I only found it by when I was trying to search for the code to join this broadcast.
Gotcha.
But, alas, no.
Oh, and now I found the link that you are referring to.
Okay, good.
So
good. We're all on the same page.
I am picking up what you're putting down. Yes, remember, Live Race Control will keep you up to date to their decisions as they come on through. We got a couple of members of our team working behind the scenes, as ever, mainly focused on incidents inside of your top 10. Pedro Sanchez Albert down to pit lane. Eduardo Leo stayed behind the wheel of the car. Sanchez Albert's going to stay behind the wheel of the car as well. And Eduardo Leo is going aggressively through the traffic, trying to make this undercut work. Albert left yet to roll. Urano with the short fill. Vlad Kimichev trying to look for track position, and he'll lead them back onto track.
Yeah, here we go though. Again, you were saying about that merger. Could it be problems?
Oh!
And yes, it is.
Williams Esports Razor, and that's surely going to cause a concertina. Daniel Pastor, not much that he could do. Drama on pit exit.
Yeah, it's always the... Oh my goodness me, he's nearly just taken the I was going to say one of the Williams Esports car, but it's not. Coming straight, coming down to T3, but like I say, that pit exit, I mean, it's up there with one of the worst in motorsport. So, it's always going to be one that causes problems. But yes, just truly off. Is there one thing about Sebring that I absolutely despise? It is pit entry and pit exit. Pit exit more so, but pit entry is pretty terrible itself.
I mean, you tell me if there is a worse pit exit in the world, because I genuinely cannot think of one. Spa endurance layout's pretty dangerous as well. To be fair, no blame on either side. Daniel Pastor running his racing line. Pedro Sanchez Albert has to stay on track to be able to rejoin the racing surface. It's as simple as that. 2 does not go into 1. Yeah,
unfortunately, that's one where it's kind of like you're looking at it being like, can we penalise the track? Is that a thing?
I like the sound of that.
Because that's just poor. Like I said, at this point as well, just to be very clear, is they are both completely unsighted to each other, right? They will, obviously you have your spotter or whatever, if as long as you've got it turned on. But realistically speaking, you can't see them. You're going off the relative, and by the time you've been spun around, you're like, did I just hit something invisible? And you kind of think, yes, of course, with triple screens and stuff, sure, but then you're relying on the fact of everyone having triple screens and that kind of stuff, and yeah, it's not pretty. I'm trying to think of other terrible pit exits. South Korea's one was pretty poor. Pit exit and pit entrance. South Korea's was right up there. Pit entrance, I still maintain the worst on the planet is Red Bull Ring.
Ooh,
but pit
yes.
exit, I don't know. Sebring is pretty high on the list. Potentially it is number 1.
Sanchez Albert runs off the road again. Catelli's pushing, but now 10 seconds off of your leader. He's maybe pushing just that little bit too hard. Kimichev has pulled an interesting strategy. By far the shortest of the fills in this first cycle. And therefore, if I'm working backwards from strategy here, Lewis, LMDHs are actually capable of doing more than 40 minutes, which means there is a little bit more leeway in what the teams and drivers can do.
Yeah, which they'll probably want to exploit on this stint more so than the next, because they want their second driver to be in for the longest period. In that kind of vein, so they'll try and pit, like I say, with 45 minutes left to go. It's a bit more of an even split. It's the kind of the problem with LMDH. It was one of those things that we've never had in any form of competition, whether it was when it was the 120 or the BMW Sim GT Cup, but in the BMW M Sim Cup, it's not a problem that we've had before, where typically drivers were 50-50, pretty much 50-50. It was, maybe 45-55. But the idea that now there is that kind of like split where it's almost like one driver's doing pretty much around 2/3 of the race versus one other driver doing 1/3, it can feel a bit like unfair for some of the drivers and whatnot. It's great when you've got drivers that have got even splits. Somewhat even better if you have one driver that's vastly quicker than the other, because you just leave them in for the longest period.
Absolutely. I wonder how you plan out your practice if you know that you may only do 40 minutes of driving.
Surely you just got to do the same amount of practice.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree, but it's one of those things that's interesting, right, about top-level sim racing, where you do hours and hours to go and do 40 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, but then it's kind of one of those things of like, I mean, I've seen it on some competitions. I actually did it once with SimGrid and the Coach Dave Academy time attack challenge, right? And basically what would happen is they would put in, not crazy amounts of practice like what you would do for this, but you would still put in lots and lots of practice for effectively one lap. Right, and by that I don't mean it's not like all of the practice where it's like you're doing lots of qualifying laps and just one of those in your 300 laps, one of those is going to be the lap that's whatever's fastest, that's the lap that's picked. Like it's typical hot lap challenge. No, in this it's like a qualifying session. So you would show up, you would do your one lap and hope that it's quick enough, and that's it. But you would put in so much practice just for that one lap.
It's like
part of me is
Super
kind of like I quite like it, but it's its own event. Part of me quite likes it actually.
I like stuff like that as well. It's always exciting and intriguing when we get to do things like that. We've done it with some of the VCO stuff, like where you get legitimately one chance to qualify and that is it. It's always been interesting to see how certain drivers respond to that pressure. Three-way fight at the front of GT3, by the way. We've got 12 minutes or so before we expect them to pit still. Siepela from Lebigra from Lullum in the hard mode RHE red line queue. McEwen 4.5 seconds further back with Andretti trying to hold on to the draft there, but relatively lockstep for the time being. Oscar Wilkins, Mid-Ohio has an interesting pit exit, which is true, but Mid-Ohio's pit exit is technically still inside of turn number 1 and feeds out, not into the racing line.
It is bad, though.
It's not ideal. Road
It's not as bad as
Atlanta's
this.
pit exit was a second point, which is pretty terrible.
Road Atlantis is bad. Mid-Ohio's is also pretty bad. But the thing
I don't
with
feel like Mid-Ohio's is that bad.
The thing is with both Mid-Ohio and with Road Atlanta is that you're actually being thrown onto not the racing line, right? Immediately, which means that you can do something before joining the racing line. Meanwhile, Sebring, the reason why tracks this are so bad is because the pit exit is the racing line, right? And that's the kind of problem. Mid-Ohio and that, you're like I say, you're kind of on the inside or outside. You're not on the racer. You've still got to kind of like you go onto the track and then merge with it, right? Which is how most tracks work and how most tracks should work. Meanwhile, Sebring's just point. Everyone who says, "Well, what do you do then?" And I'm like, "Well, for one, you can move the pit lane, which don't get me wrong, is not easy. But like I've said before, like with Red Bull Ring, this is not an easy thing to do at all. But you move the pit lane to before the.
Oh wait, sorry, Lewis. We know what the worst one is.
Which one?
Paul Ricard.
Haha. Yeah, Paul Ricard.
Long Beach is pretty terrible too. Indianapolis road courses had terrible configurations of pit exit. You know.
The current pit exit's okay.
It's better, but
it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
You're not just thrown onto the apex of turn 1, which is the important bit.
So I still maintain Spa's endurance pit exit is terrible.
Awful.
Unsafe.
Awful.
There was that incident, like 2018 Spa 24 Hour, where Kevin Estre got the blame for leaving pit lane and crashing into people that were basically leaving him nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And my point is, Spa's pit exit is, you release yourself on the limiter at the bottom of the hill, you come up over Eau Rouge Radion, right, on the right-hand side, and then you've got to blend back in with cars that have just come over the crest and are unsighted to you.
Yep.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, you part of me... Speaking of recipes for disaster, Dylan Scrivens, Bobo's had a bit of a problem going into Big Bend.
Bobo's done
how?
the rear wing.
I did once. What was the race? I was commentating on something. Oh, I think it was Le Mans Virgin.
Oh, was it?
Sorry. The bridge on Big. Someone drove into it.
Oh, I remember exactly what you're talking about. This is Owen Carl and Bobo just coming together and painful slide back into the wall for Dylan Scrivens. It was all set up, I think, by maybe a mistake initially, running a little bit over the curb as well. And to be fair, Scrivens goes for it, really commits, doesn't really leave much room.
Yeah, but the car's not there, man, on the exit. I know, obviously, we said it before about, like, if there's a car there, you got to give space and all that. For me, like, for Carroll, it's like the move's done. You've already made the mistake. Just back out of it.
I see from this perspective. I thought, what does
it's the apex?
Fernando Alonso says you must always leave the space, and I think I'm going to agree with Sir Fernando on that one. I don't really feel like Owen was left enough room.
Yeah, but the thing is, Owen Carroll, I don't think when you look at how far he's alongside, it's not even like front wheel to rear wheel, right?
True.
It's even less than that. At which point you're kind of like, don't know, I am very against the old idea of like someone just driving someone off.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I hate that. I really, really do. But if I'm Owen Carroll, I'm backing out of that because it's like there is no advantage to me being held on the inside. I could see race control going either way on that one, by the way.
I feel like that's a racing incident.
Yeah, that's where I would lean towards. I mean, it's two people doing something silly, right? Dylan Scrivens did not give enough room, and Owen Carroll's kind of leaving himself at a point where he's always going to cause a crash.
Yeah.
Right? You're both asking for trouble there. Sorry.
No. I'm 100% in agreement with you. Couple of updates from some technical issues that we had, by the way. Redline confirming Gianni Vecchio pedal failure or something along those lines, and so that's why he had his big shunt into the wall. Tom Burns then had monitor failure, which is why we saw him stopped and resetting back to pit lane. And to make it a perfect trifecta of issues, not for Redline, but at the very front of the field, if you're wondering why Luke McEwen is maybe a little bit off pace, we've seen BMW, Apex really find some speed in this BMW over the last 12 months or so. Luke McEwen is driving without any engine audio right now, Lewis, which I can tell you from personal experience is terrible.
I mean, no. Absolutely not. Poor guy. I mean, I would assume, is that no game audio? That's because this is the thing. Is that
no game audio as a whole. Yes.
Okay, so as things go, I would rather have no game audio at all rather than having other people's engine noises, which I have had in a race before.
Really?
I remember we were racing around Imola in some 1996 Formula One cars, and I just remember the guy behind, who was my teammate, was a second behind, but for whatever reason his engine noise was louder than mine, much louder, to the point where I couldn't hear my.
Wow.
And it was one of the worst driving experiences I've ever had. It was awful, and so my kind of thing with driving with no engine noise or whatever, I'd rather have no game noise at all. But either way, it's not easy. So respect.
Respect. Don't do what my teammate did once, though. So it was a 4-hour race at Donington Park. We're in a GT3 car. I do the first 2 hours. The plan was for my teammate to do the second 2 hours, right? I'm streaming my race on Twitch. My teammate is watching me on Twitch, but to make sure that he doesn't hear double, he mutes iRacing. Then when it's time to switch, no, you can see where this is going, can't you? When we switch things over, he pauses my Twitch stream, forgets to unmute iRacing. And so I'm sitting there on my Twitch stream with the most miserable look on my face, wondering why he's so off pace. And we get to the point halfway through the stint where we're just like, we have to pull you out of the car halfway through. So I can do the final hour. And then when he gets out of the car, he's like, I didn't want to tell you, but I had muted my audio. And I was like, now it makes so much sense.
I mean, to be fair, that would be one of the first things that I'd say, because it's just an excuse to throw out there straight away.
Yeah, he felt too embarrassed, though, because we were doing well.
I mean, it is pretty embarrassing, yes. Yes, but then again, to be fair, once it wasn't embarrassing because someone had already been in the car about 3,500 times. But in that race that me and you teamed up on, there was one point where I'd unplugged my wheel and then plugged it back in again, and then got back in the car. Obviously, I hadn't calibrated the pedals, and so I had to drive around. Like you breathe on the brake pedal and lock up. So we've all done silly things. That's the important bit.
Yeah, some of us have forgotten to come down to pit lane.
Oh, more than once.
More than once.
More than once. I've done it so many times. It's painful.
I've only done it once. It just happened to be when I was leading a Bathurst 12 hours here at iRacing. Fortunately, we had a 2-lap lead. So.
And you have a tow.
And we have a tow, which you yes.
When I did it, we had a 2-lap lead, and this was
on another platform. I think it was
6 years ago. Yeah, yes. It was on another platform as well. And yeah, there was no tow, and so. If you're out, you're out of fuel, you're out of the race. And so we were out of fuel, so we were out of the race. Fine, don't worry about it.
I'm sorry. Mental pain. Oscar Wilkins says, by the way, talking about Donington, Donington does have an interesting pit exit merge. It does.
It is bad. It is pretty bad.
Yas Marina has been called out for its pit exit. And to be fair,
it is bad.
The merge may not be that bad in totality when you think about it, but the pit exit itself is awful.
I mean, the merge is pretty bad because you are thrown. As Williams are having more issues.
Carl forgot that he's not meant to be out in the dirt.
Yep, it's not rallycross here, sir, unfortunately. But yes, like I say, yeah, I mean, Yas Marina is pretty poor. I mean,
just as a track, it's
just as a track. Dot. It's slightly better with the new configuration. That's what we were talking about coming into this, by the way, when it comes to this car being snappy in braking zones, and I think he might touch.
I feel like he's on the grass.
I was going to say, part of me feels like he might have just touched the grass ever so slightly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So that wasn't even the case of the rear cylinders and locking up the rear end. It was more just Carl not paying attention.
Poor driving.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I expect to
Carl is a good sport. He's not going to mind us, hopefully, saying stuff like that.
I mean, like I say, you know me, I always stay bad driving on the bus. So there's another one. Boom. Tick.
I just throw the bad drivers under the bus.
It's not commentator's curse. There's no such thing as a commentator's curse. There's only bad driving. Have we got much hit back on that, by the way?
On what?
Commentator's curse doesn't exist.
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know, actually. I haven't been paying attention.
I've not checked.
Almost at the top of the hour, 62 minutes to go. I think you would be able to make it to the end if you wanted to pit this lap. We have already seen a couple of cars come on in for a seemingly full service cycle. Remember, you can change tires and do fuel at the same time. Big change to what we had at the end of last year. I think we are going to see one on in. RAG and Full and Labigra trying the undercut.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I don't necessarily mind something like an undercut, but I do think that RHG were potentially struggling a little bit towards the end of that stint. Just kind of with where they were, yeah, the vibe of the car. Now, if that is the case, then you have to go, obviously not 58 minutes, you have to go an hour and 2. You've got to go that extra couple of laps on the set tire. So if it is a tyre problem, you might be running into further issues as the race goes on, and it'll be obviously the really important part of the race. But sometimes, you might undercut yourself, give yourself track position, and that could be the key.
Bandeira verde. Ok, vai abrir a primeira volta cronometrada agora. Tem só mais 2 voltas de combustível. Prepara para entrar em breve. Só mais uma. 1 minuto 10.168. É só mais uma volta pra verde, ok? Alinha na fila da direita. Lembrando que o pit tá fechado, ok? Alcance o carro 5. Alcance o carro 35. Alcance o carro 33. Alcance o carro 33. Atenção, hein? Vai largar. Ok, o pace car entrou. Bandeira verde, tá valendo. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Ainda aí, mantenha a tua linha, limpo. Olha, daqui parece que entortou tudo. Acho que a suspensão já era. Na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. Minuto 43.962. Minuto 11.384. Minuto 11.411. Minuto 11.608. Carro lento aí na frente, cuidado. Minuto 11.494. Minuto 11.535. Tira o pé para devolver o tempo que ganhou, né? Minuto 13.101. Minuto 12.255. Sem carro na direita. Limpo. Na esquerda, limpo. Minuto 13.015. Na esquerda. Beleza, limpo na esquerda. Na direita. Limpo. Na esquerda, liberou na esquerda. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Tem carro na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. Carro na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. 1 minuto 12.403. Tem um carro lento na direita. Tem carro na sua esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Carro na direita. Limpo. Tem carro na direita. Você tá na esquerda, entre o wide. Limpo. Minuto 14.012. Na esquerda. Limpo. Carro na sua esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Minuto 12.396. Tem carro na direita. Ainda aí, mantenha a tua linha. Liberado na direita. 9-6. Tem carro na direita. Limpo. 1 minuto 11.776. Na direita. Limpo. 1 minuto 11.859. Minuto 11.867. Tem carro na direita. 1 minuto 11.746. Fica na esquerda. está entrando no box agora. Tem um carro lento na direita. Box vem, 10. 5, 3, 2, 1. Vem aqui. Ok, vai. Minuto 44.641. Carro na sua esquerda, 1 minuto 12.267. Liberou na esquerda. Tem carro na direita. Beleza, limpo na direita. Na esquerda. Liberou na esquerda. Na direita. Liberado na direita. Tira o pé para devolver o tempo que ganhou, né? 4, 6. Minuto 11.963. O carro tá todo quebrado, só guinchando. Aperta e segura o botão reset para chamar o guincho. Tem carro na direita. Box play, 10. 5. O líder tá entrando no box agora. 3, 1. Vem aqui.